When you see this sign, it's already too late. Not too late in the way fear understands time. Not too late because something slipped away from you. Not too late because you failed to act. It's too late because the moment already passed where you could have stayed the same. Most people misunderstand this sign because they hear the words too late and immediately feel regret rise in their chest. They think of missed chances, delayed decisions, moments they wish they could rewind. But spiritually, too late doesn't mean you lost something. It means something irreversible already happened inside you. The door didn't close behind you. You walked through it without realizing it. And now, you're only noticing because the environment around you no longer fits who you've become. This sign never appears at the beginning of a journey. It doesn't show up when you're motivated, hopeful, or actively searching for answers. It shows up after the exhaustion, after the confusion, after the long stretch where nothing made sense and no external validation arrived. It shows up when you've already done the hardest part without applause, when you've already dismantled the old version of yourself in silence. That's why seeing this sign feels strange. There's no rush, no panic, no urgency, just a quiet recognition that something is different now, that the person you used to be can't fully step back into the life you once tolerated. You may still be living in the same place, talking to the same people, doing some of the same routines, but internally, something has expired. And once that happens, there is no going back. You didn't wake up one day and choose this. You didn't plan to outgrow certain environments, conversations, or ambitions. It happened slowly, subtly, almost invisibly. You became quieter, not because you had nothing to say, but because you no longer felt the need to explain yourself. You became more selective, not because you were afraid, but because your energy stopped responding to everything that demanded it. You started observing more than participating, and without realizing it, you crossed a threshold most people never notice when it happens. This is the sign, when your inner world becomes louder than the outer one, when silence stops feeling empty and starts feeling full, when being alone feels more stabilizing than being surrounded by people who don't see you. At that point, it's already too late. The old coping mechanisms don't work anymore. The distractions that once kept you comfortable stop satisfying you. The noise that used to feel exciting starts to feel heavy, and the universe doesn't try to pull you back. It lets the distance grow. Because distance is how alignment protects itself. People often think spiritual awakening looks dramatic. They expect visions, signs in the sky, sudden clarity. But the real awakening happens much more quietly. It happens when your nervous system changes its preferences, when your body stops craving chaos, when your mind stops chasing stimulation, when your soul stops negotiating with things it already knows aren't meant to come with you. This is why many people feel isolated right before their life upgrades. Not because they're being punished, but because their frequency is recalibrating. Life removes distractions before it reveals direction. It clears the space before it delivers the next chapter. And if you're experiencing this, it's not because you're behind. It's because the universe is narrowing your path. Once this sign appears, your life is no longer asking for permission. The direction is already set. You can question it. You can doubt it. You can overthink every detail. But you can't undo it. Because the shift didn't happen in your mind. It happened in your identity. This is the stage where mistakes stop carrying the same consequences they used to, where setbacks don't collapse your progress, where emotional spirals resolve faster than before. You're not being careless. You're being supported. The fragile phase is over. The universe has moved you into what can only be described as a protected outcome window. A phase where alignment matters more than precision and intention matters more than perfection. If you've made it this far, don't forget to subscribe for daily cosmic insights, astrology updates, and spiritual guidance, because the universe always has a message for you. That's why things don't fall apart the way they used to. That's why certain fears don't have the same power. That's why even when you hesitate, life still moves you forward. You passed the part where one wrong step could ruin everything. The foundation is different now. The energy is different. You are different. Another sign that you're already past the point of no return is how you perceive people and situations. You start noticing patterns without trying. You feel the energy of a room the moment you enter it. You sense authenticity and manipulation without needing proof. You see dynamics clearly, almost from above, as if you're no longer fully inside them. This isn't disconnection. This is perspective. Your awareness upgraded before your external life caught up. And during this gap, it can feel uncomfortable. You might wonder why you don't fit the same way anymore, why conversations feel repetitive, why certain ambitions feel hollow. But this isn't loss. This is preparation. You're being trained to move differently through the world. Many people never reach this stage because it requires letting go of familiar identities without knowing what replaces them. But you didn't quit halfway. You stayed present through the confusion. You didn't numb yourself back into old patterns. And because of that, something deeper activated. There are moments in life when destiny stops waiting for clarity, when internal agreements made long before conscious awareness finally come online. These are not random, they are soul-level activations, timed thresholds that trigger only after specific experiences are completed, losses endured, lessons integrated, internal stability achieved. This is why the sign feels sudden. Your conscious mind may still feel like it's figuring things out, but your soul already finished the preparation phase. You're not being warned, you're being informed. The contract is already active, and once it is, hesitation doesn't stop it. Fear doesn't delay it. Confusion doesn't cancel it. Destiny doesn't ask again when the timing is right. It moves. That's why life can feel like it's accelerating now. Old patterns dissolve without effort. Certain doors close without emotional struggle. New directions feel obvious instead of intimidating. You're not being pushed forward. You're being carried by a deeper version of your own will. This shift is physical too. Your body knows it before your mind does. Your nervous system begins rejecting high-volume environments. Crowds feel draining. Constant interaction feels unnecessary. Your system starts choosing depth over noise, focus over stimulation, clarity over chaos. This isn't burnout. This isn't sensitivity. This is biological alignment. Your brain reallocates energy toward long-term thinking and pattern recognition. Your emotional responses slow down. Your reactions soften. You become harder to shake, not because you don't care, but because your center of gravity moved inward. You're no longer regulated by your environment. You're regulated by your alignment. This is why the sign doesn't appear while you're searching. It appears when you stop chasing, when your energy stops trying to force outcomes, when desperation dissolves into quiet readiness. If the universe showed you this earlier, you might have misunderstood it. You might have rushed something fragile. You might have clung to an identity that wasn't meant to survive the transition. So the delay wasn't punishment. It was precision. You weren't kept from the sign. You were protected from interpreting it too soon. And now that you can see it without fear, without panic, without ego, the timing finally clicks. It's too late for your old life to keep running. Too late to fail in the ways you once feared. Too late to stay small out of habit. Too late for the old timeline to continue controlling you. This isn't an ending. It's the after effect of a decision already made in your favor. You didn't miss your moment. You arrived after the internal shift was complete, and now life is rearranging itself around you instead of you rearranging yourself around life. If you're still here, still listening, that alone says something. Most people turn away before truth can land, but you stayed. And that means whatever comes next isn't random. Let it meet you gently. Let it meet you without resistance. Because despite everything you thought you missed, the most important chapter of your story is just beginning. And when it unfolds, you'll realize why it had to be too late for everything else. The phase where life stops testing you. Once you reach this stage, something subtle but profound begins to happen. Life stops testing you in the way it used to, not because challenges disappear, but because the purpose of those challenges has changed. Earlier, obstacles were meant to shape you. They pushed against your weaknesses, exposed your fears, and forced growth through pressure. But now, the pressure feels different. It's no longer trying to break you open, it's trying to position you. This is why situations that once would have thrown you into panic now feel manageable, even when they're serious. You still care. You still feel. But the emotional charge isn't the same. You don't spiral the way you used to. You don't collapse into overthinking. You don't lose yourself trying to control outcomes that are already moving. This is one of the clearest signs that it's already too late to go back. The universe has stopped asking, "Can you handle this?" It's now saying, "This is where you're needed." And that shift changes everything. You may notice that people respond to you differently without being able to explain why. Some become quieter around you, some project onto you, some feel inspired, others uncomfortable. Not because you're trying to influence them, but because your energy no longer seeks permission to exist. You're no longer broadcasting uncertainty, you're carrying presence. Presence is unsettling to people who are still running from themselves. At this stage, you also begin losing interest in proving anything. Success stops being about recognition and starts becoming about alignment. You no longer chase validation because you've felt what it's like to be internally anchored. And once you experience that, external approval feels temporary and hollow. This is where many people get confused. They think they're losing ambition. They think they're becoming indifferent. But what's actually happening is refinement. Your motivation is no longer fueled by fear or comparison. It's fueled by clarity. And clarity doesn't rush. You begin choosing differently, not impulsively, not dramatically, quietly. You walk away from conversations that don't resonate. You delay decisions that feel forced. You allow things to unfold instead of squeezing them into timelines that no longer fit. And here's the truth most people don't realize. When you stop forcing life, life starts cooperating. This is also the phase where time feels strange. Days can feel slower, yet progress happens faster. You might feel like you're doing less, but more shifts behind the scenes. That's because alignment doesn't need constant action. It needs precision. The universe isn't speeding you up, it's sharpening you. And once you're sharpened, even small movements create large effects. This is why opportunities begin arriving without pursuit, why certain connections reappear unexpectedly, why ideas land fully formed instead of needing to be chased. You're no longer broadcasting hunger, you're broadcasting readiness. And readiness is magnetic. But with this phase comes a responsibility most people aren't prepared for. You can no longer lie to yourself without consequences. You can no longer pretend something feels right when it doesn't. The universe becomes less forgiving of self-betrayal, not because it's harsh, but because you no longer need the lesson repeated. This is what spiritual maturity looks like. Less drama, less confusion, more truth. And truth doesn't shout, it settles. By now, it should be clear why the sign didn't appear earlier. If it had, you might have tried to weaponize it. You might have used it to control outcomes or escape discomfort. But now, you don't need to escape. You're no longer negotiating with life. You're cooperating with it. And that's when the real shift begins. When the universe starts moving through you, there comes a point after awakening where you realize something that changes how you see everything. The universe is no longer guiding you from the outside. It's moving through you. This is the phase most people can't explain, only feel. Decisions don't feel heavy anymore. You don't debate endlessly. You sense what's aligned long before logic catches up. You act with calm certainty, even when you can't articulate why. And later, when the outcome reveals itself, you understand why hesitation would have only delayed the inevitable. This is what people mean when they say, "I don't know how I knew, I just knew." It's not intuition as a tool, it's intuition as a state. At this level, resistance feels louder than effort. Forcing yourself into old patterns becomes physically uncomfortable. Your body reacts before your mind does. Tightness, fatigue, a subtle pull away. These are not signs of weakness. They're signals of alignment protecting itself. You're no longer meant to override your inner signals for the sake of comfort or familiarity. The universe has already seen what happens when you do that, and it's not interested in repeating lessons you've outgrown. This is also why people from your past may resurface right now, not to pull you backward, but to confirm how far you've come. You'll notice the difference immediately. The old dynamics don't hook you. The emotional charge isn't there. You see clearly what once confused you. Closure doesn't always look like a conversation. Sometimes it looks like neutrality, and neutrality is powerful. As this phase stabilizes, you begin to understand the deeper meaning of too late. It's too late to abandon yourself, too late to settle out of fear, too late to pretend you don't know what you know. The ignorance you once relied on for comfort is no longer available. But in exchange, you gain something far greater: trust. Not blind trust, earned trust. Trust in your timing, trust in your perception, trust in the quiet voice that doesn't argue or panic. And when trust becomes your foundation, life starts responding differently. You're no longer bracing for impact, you're anticipating coherence. Things don't have to be perfect to feel right. They just have to be true. This is when the universe stops speaking in riddles and starts responding in results. You may not see the full picture yet. You're not meant to. This phase isn't about foresight. It's about flow, step by step, choice by choice, alignment by alignment. And here's the final truth that brings everything together. If you're seeing this now, it's already too late to doubt whether you're on the right path. The doubt belonged to the version of you that needed proof. You've crossed into the phase where experience replaces explanation. Whatever unfolds next will confirm what your soul already knows. You're not waiting for your life to begin. You're already living inside the shift. And once you recognize that, everything that arrives from here on out is not a surprise. It's a continuation.